Good evening. So here we are. This is the second episode of TippyVlogs. I gone and made another. You thought I wouldn't be able to do it, but I did it. So before we get into the meat of this, I want to talk about the format change. There's a little bit of a format change going forward. I'm not really going to be talking about my life anymore. I'm more going to be talking about the music I'm making because I think that's a lot more interesting. I felt like there was a lot of superfluous things that didn't really need to be in the first vlog. So, Sunday to Wednesday, that is quite a big jump in time, but there's a reason for that. I didn't do much. I mostly worked on that first vlog. There was a lot of filming and editing I needed to get out of the way. A lot of mistakes timed me up. The one thing I did was get around to recording a kick drum pattern and comping the kick drum pattern for that drum part that I was making last week. I originally tried to do this with a book. It didn't sound very well. It was very like sine wavy when I cut off a lot of the highs. Like it sounded like a really low sine wave. Like it could be nice maybe for like one of those analog 808s to use a big book like that, but it didn't really sound like a kick. So I switched to this big box, and I feel like that was it did its job. So, Thursday, that is when I started working on the transition songs, so these little title cards. I need some music for them. So I began by loading up a Roomba preset on my Portasound keyboard. What even is Roomba? I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so it's the mid-19th century in Cuba. Not a great place to be a black person. Slavery is the main issue, but even if you weren't enslaved, you're some of the free black people in Havana, for instance, you were still the lowest rungs in the socio-economic ladder. It wasn't a good time, so to compensate for that, people danced, people sung, and numerous folk styles were developed. For instance, shangui in around Guantanamo, as well as rumba or rumba around Havana. Anyway, slavery gets abolished, so all of the Afro-Cubans in the region start moving into Havana, and they take their developed folk styles and mix it with the Havanan folk styles, and this becomes something called son cubano. Anyway, jump forward, 1930s USA, not a good time to be anyone. So, just like in the mid-19th century, people started dancing. They started going to these ballrooms and doing swing dancing and all that. The big one you've probably heard of is the Savoy Ballroom, but there's also the Waldorf Astoria Hotel Ballroom, as well as the Alhambra. Now, these ballrooms had residencies, they had house bands. A lot of them were led by Cuban Americans. Probably the most famous is a man called Xavier Cagat, known for his love of chihuahuas. He would have one on him when he was conducting. These Cuban Americans wanted to bring some of their own cultural influences into the big band music they were playing. So they took a lot of things from son cubano music, what I was talking about earlier. They took these clave rhythms, they took bongos and congas, as well as like lyrical themes as well. And it became a big old craze in these ballrooms to have this Cuban music, this rumba, as they erroneously called it. It wasn't rumba, that was an older style. It was son cubano mixed with big band, but it got labeled rumba by the American press. However, it wasn't until a man named Don Zapiazu released the song El Manicero, also known as the Peanut Bender in English, that rumba really took hold of the country. It sold 1 million records. Doesn't sound huge now, but in 1930s America, that was like the biggest thing around, 1 million records. Wouldn't believe it, it was the first Cuban hit. This is the first time Cuban music had ever taken off in the US. Anyway, while rumba didn't really stay around for long, it opened the door for a lot of other Cuban music into America. First mambo in the 40s, and then cha-cha-cha in the 50s, as well as boogaloo into the 60s, which would eventually adapt into the cultural institution of salsa dance, as well as salsa music. So there you go, that's a little history lesson for you. I don't know if you wanted that. I don't know if that's why you clicked on this video, but you know things now. Sorry about that. I feel like that got away from me a little bit. Anyway, the other songs. Okay, so we have the Tippy theme here, the TippyVlogs theme. This is the acoustic guitar part you're hearing right now. So that is a fairly standard major progression. You can see it right here. It's the thing that really gives it color, gives it kind of its personality, is that flat 7 major chord. You know, that could be suggesting a Mixolydian feel, you know, like a darker major feel. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play G Mixolydian over this. You could use that F major as a new key center. You could play F major over it. You could play F Mixolydian over it. In fact, you might be able to write like a sequence in Mixolydian, starting with that G Mixolydian, and then go to F Mixolydian, then go down to E. Just a second. Okay, so that's a good idea for another song, but not relevant to what we're doing at the moment. Here is the Porter sound part. This is the string setting with sustain. It adds a lot of, you know, I was going to say warmth, but it doesn't really. There's not a lot of like low mids here. What's really being evoked is the kind of sound of an old, you know, VHS. So there's like a nostalgic quality to this. It's a cultural connotation rather than, you know, like a typical music cognition kind of thing. It's, yeah, you know, not everything's music theory. Sometimes it's just what reminds people of something else. All right, now we have the shakers. You can hear them here. So these just add a bit of, you know, like a rhythmic backbone, but they also add a bit of stereo width, make it sound wider. The chorus also does that as well. Because, you know, if I center these, right now, left, right. Oop, oop, there we go. Okay, then we play them again. You notice the sound is very much like in your face, in front of you, right? Pennies left and right, and now the music's all around. It surrounds you. That surround sound. Alright, so this is based off of like a small group samba ensemble. This is the hi-hat. It's standing in for like a pandeiro part. That kind of sets the pulse of the samba. It's playing a rhythm kind of like this, just really fast, so it feels like it's in 2/4 instead of 6/8. You know, that's the kind of feel that I'm trying to evoke with this part. Alright, so here we have the kaisho, it's known as the snare drum. Let's play that. Now this plays something called the telekoteku, also known as the samba timeline. It's kind of like a clave thing, you can hear it here. Yeah, it just adds a bit of drive, a bit of forward momentum to the piece. Next we have the sadu right here. Let's have a listen to that. So that's just emphasizing the 1 and 2 of every bar. Adds, you know, a little bit of stability and such. So here we have the Repentinki, this place that they call the Chamada. There it is. That just starts off the samba. Then it kind of plays along with the pandero, as well as adds some ornamentation. And that's it, you know, hear it together. There you go. Alright, so we have this electro-industrial piece I've made. So we start off with this Bachler musical easel thing I made. Made on like a semi-modular synthesizer. Oh, we have an 808 here with like a Big Muff emulator, some saturation, some compression. That sounds like this. It's pretty nice. Okay, we have a bunch of samples here. We've got this spring sample, sounds like this. Then we've got these monologue duo samples. There, yeah, they're quite nice. And then we have just me banging on a door with a bunch of compression. Listen to that. Super cool. You didn't get to hear that because OBS is a really good software that never fails. Anyway, nice. That's it. I'm probably gonna get rid of this track, by the way. Doesn't really fit with the aesthetic of this stuff. Also, I went to my sister's on Saturday, so, you know, nothing happened. Okay, goodbye.
And what a week that was. Wasn't the most eventful. You know, it was a little slow. I didn't really get to work on the EP at all. Just mostly doing stuff for the vlog. But I had a lot of fun with it, I think. Anyway, look at this. Was this here before? I don't think so. But it's here now. Hello! Lovely girl. Anyway, bye.